thank you. What's our topic?
I thought that it's quite a pertinent one at the moment with parents struggling to, under lockdown, to balance homeschooling, working at home, losing jobs, retrenchment, and still wanting to give their children a good quality education. So I thought that we could chat through some ideas that we applied ourselves in our home, also other ones that we've seen parents do over the years on frugal homeschooling. So why don't you jump in with your first thoughts on it, and then we'll chat like we normally do.
Okay. Well, many parents homeschool on a shoestring budget because a lot of families are surviving on one income because mom is at home homeschooling the kids. But there are also a lot of mothers who have become entrepreneurs and started little homeschooling businesses, and so they work part-time or they juggle doing freelance work or something like that. So if you're in a situation where you have lost a job, that's also something to look at, but we'll keep that for another time. So if you're watching this, you already have access to the internet, which means you have a whole world of information that you can tap into. And actually there's a whole lot of online home education resources that you could use. But the trade-off between going for a totally free combination of online resources and perhaps combining it with some paid resources is that trade-off of time and money. If you buy ready-made resources, you can just open the book and do the next lesson, and it's very convenient. But if you choose the online option, then you might need to go and do your homework and spend time looking at what is out there, choosing what you're going to use, and then scheduling lessons or YouTube or whatever it is that you're going to put together for your own children. And either way, you can give them an excellent education. But what I always recommend is looking at what you can afford and then considering that an investment. So if you haven't lost a job, for example, and you were paying X amount of school fees, make that the minimum that you spend on your home education curriculum. Obviously, if you've lost a job, you're going to have to reassess your budget and then work out what you think is a good figure to be able to spend. And then perhaps do a combination of what's free and some core curriculum products that will just cover the basics for your kids and make your life a little bit simpler, because there is so much to consider when you first start homeschooling, and there's so many new things going on, setting up routines and dealing with attitudes. I like the convenience of having materials that make my life simpler.
Yeah. So let's talk rands and cents. We've obviously always chosen an eclectic mix for our children, which allows us, as you're saying, to buy one thing 1 month, and then when the funds are in place, you buy the next thing. And it also, because we promote programs written by homeschoolers for homeschoolers, you generally find that they're catering for more than one grade at a time, which is another way to save money. And even if all of them aren't doing that same program this year, when they come up in the age ranks, they will pick that program up. And Footprints is one of those programs where, you know, you have this broad age range that you can work on one program at the same time. So Little Footprints is 4 to 8 year olds, Footprints on Our Land 8 to 12, and then the high school program sort of 12 to 16 years of age. But once I've bought the one for my 14-year-old, the little guys that are coming up in the back are going to reuse it. So when you do your budgeting, you need to take that fee, whether it's this one or another literature-based program, and you need to divide it by the amount of children you have to see how cost-effective it actually is. So, you know, for about 6,000 Rand with Footprints, you can home educate all of your children for many years. And you know, again, as the younger ones come up, they will then use it again, and it's just huge value for money. Other programs, you know, you've got your online curriculum providers. They range from sort of 9,000 Rand per child per year up to 22,000 Rand per child per year. They obviously, you're getting the convenience of being able to plonk your kid in front of a computer screen. They'll work through it with a tutor. They'll get feedback to the parent and that sort of thing. And perhaps for some parents who can afford it but do have to work full time, that is an option for them. But it is certainly not a a cost-effective option because it's, you know, per child. It's just a once-off program.
Yeah, those distance education products are often not reusable with younger children, and they cater for one grade at a time because they're just like the school system, but you're doing it via distance education online. So it's different to this multi-grade option that we're suggesting.
Absolutely. The other thing that I was thinking parents could consider is that when we started out homeschooling, we were living the fun life. You know, both of us had these big jobs in corporate world and a lovely big house and 2 cars, and we had the whole thing and the fashionable wardrobe. You know, you got to keep up with everybody else at the bank, and then we felt called to homeschool our child, and walked away from that, got rid of a car, actually sold a house, downscaled into a tiny little white starter home. And we made those decisions because it was the conviction of our heart. So I must ask parents who are considering their budget, is if mom is working, is it not more cost effective for her to rather leave her job for a season, or, as you mentioned right at the beginning, find a way that she can work from home in her job and oversee her children's education instead of paying huge amounts of money to online tutors or even a tutor coming into the home? And I think that one of the books that really helped me, it's this one over here. We'll put it up in the comments below. It's called Nicely Moms, and in it she covers the reason why she started to homeschool and how they had to go from also a big 2-income family down to 1. And it is chock-a-block full of resources on how to actually make your budget stretch. Were there any things that you did in your early years that can encourage folks that way?
Yeah, well, actually, I was just a stay-at-home mom that was not earning any income when we first started homeschooling. And so I invested what I thought was just the basics. We started with a maths program and a language arts program. And then I used the library for a lot of other resources. And after 1 or 2 years of using programs that were just like school at home, that was when I started looking into literature-based home education. And as you know, that's when Footprints was born. We started reading all these lovely stories together. And I thought, I want these lessons to use with my younger children, all this research that I'm doing. And so that's how come Footprints came about. So the point was, I just started with a few basic products and then fleshed out whatever I could using the internet, using the library. And in different seasons, we did more and then we did less, depending on things like the budget, on circumstances in our home. Like when I had babies and toddlers, I just couldn't cope with a lot of extras. And so you've got many years in which to educate your children, and some seasons are going to be leaner than others. And maybe for many starting now after this time of this pandemic, they're starting in a lean season, but it isn't always going to be this way. I've seen how circumstances in families change and opportunities come, and maybe you start a business and in a few months' time you've got some other form of income. But it's wrong to think that it's always going to be the way it is now.
Absolutely. They say, you know, the one certainty in life is things will always change. I think it goes like that. So yeah, and I think the take home really is that as long as we can keep our children going with their education, even if it doesn't look like the education that we had, you know, at a desk with textbooks, etc. And there are so many natural ways in which to do that in the home, particularly in the preschool years. The amount of learning that can take place just around the basic functions in the home is amazing. Teaching our little ones to read naturally from signs in the road, you know, labels on bottles, teaching them their basic maths through setting tables, measuring things, baking together. All those things are true education. And there is no reason why any of those need to stop. And any mom can buy a box of Smarties and teach colors to a toddler, and then teach the older one, if I take one of that for you and one of this for me, and I put them together. We've got one and we've got two. The issue actually at the core of it may be that moms don't trust themselves anymore to know what their children need, and the same way that they taught them, by holding their little hands when they were starting out on wobbly legs and pointing out all the things and light on, all those little things that we did then, we can carry on doing because we like 20, 30 years ahead of them in life, and we've got that to impart to them. So for moms not to think that education only happens in a textbook sitting at a desk is a big thing as well. What resources do we have to draw on in ourselves, in our home, with our grandparents that can teach knitting, sewing, woodwork, and all the things that come along with that? That's true education.
You reminded me of, 200 years ago, or however many 100 years ago, when there was pioneers and voortrekkers and missionaries, and a lot of people were just educated with a Bible. That was their book. And the rest they learned through life, through farming, through traveling, through doing whatever it was that they were doing. So, I mean, whether you want to use the Bible or not, you've got the internet nowadays. A person almost has no excuse. There's free printable worksheets for handwriting, for maths, for teaching phonics and language. Everything is actually out there free if you want it. But as I said, you've got to decide on the convenience of researching it versus the convenience of just buying a few ready-made products to make your life easy. And probably a combination would be ideal for many families. That's what I would recommend.
Absolutely. And we've got on our Footprints website at the moment, SouthAfricanHomeschoolCurriculum.com. If you sign up for our newsletter, where we send lots of encouragement, keep you up to date with the legal things happening, we've got a giveaway of 2 of our free lap books, South African history lap books. And if you like them, go sign up on the newsletter, and if you like them, consider using that as one of the ready-mades that you can add to your curriculum. There's 9 different ebooks covering South African culture and history, and they are 100 Rand each, and they're instantly downloadable. And that, along with some of your other videos that you can bring in and some books that you can read, is a good month's worth of home education for 100 Rand. Yeah. We got this.
There is a will, there's a way.
So what we're going to do is we've got a whole list of links in that we're going to pop in the box below and the comments below, and parents can figure their way through that. And otherwise, Footprints is there. We are a very affordable curriculum provider for families wanting to cover South African history in a way that's never been covered before. So nice chatting again. Have a good
next time.
Yeah.